Everybody welcome. And I have to explain my blue shirt. Somebody in just about every session at the beginning said, I love you in that color. And the color was red. So I thought from now on, I shall always wear red. But the wonderful human being who understands computers and does my YouTube called and said, wear a different color. Don't always wear the same thing. But you see, let me give you my back. So I didn't today, but let me give you my background. I went to Catholic school, sister school in Panama. We all wore uniforms. You never had to think what you're going to wear. It was the uniform. As long as it was washed and the skirt was not too short and your arms were covered, you were perfect. And in Panama, this was Panama, the only Americans I saw who always looked immaculate, because there was a lot of drinking going on in Panama among the Americans, but the soldiers and the sailors were always immaculate, and they all wore white. And they all looked shiny and clean, just like we little girls in St. Mary's Academy did. So it's automatic for me to wear the same thing over and over and over again. But I switched. Don't give me comments because I don't have that many clothes that I look okay in. Okay? But I do have a lot of red and orange and pink. And now I will try to stay away from them for a little while until you forget that I own them, and then I'll wear them again. Okay? There are a lot of things that happened, but I want to tell you the miracle of yesterday. We were far away in White Plains. That was Kenny, my son, Joni, my daughter, her dog named Willie, and me. And the car did not start. And they looked at each other and said, let's call AAA. And they called AAA. And I said to Joni, because Kenny was with the car now, and I said to Joni, what does that mean in terms of time? And she says, we'll know in a minute, just wait. It's true. Her phone rings, and minutes later, and she said, okay, they'll be here within minutes, in about not more than 10 minutes. And I said, do you really believe that? And she said, pretty much, yes. I didn't trust her pretty much, but she understands machines, which means telephones, cell phones, cars. So I listened. It was about 10 minutes to 3 at that time. And she said they should be here around 3. And we sat there and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And I said, Joni, do you believe them? And she said, pretty much. In the meantime, Kenny is loading and unloading from the wagons. And every car that passed by that even resembled a repair person, we stared at. Well, at a few minutes to 3, we get a phone call. He's here. Who is he? We don't know what his car will look like. We were sitting in front of the hotel, so we couldn't see where the cars had been parked. And I began to walk over. And I walked, but I didn't see our car. And then I walked back again, and everything is fine. Joni's sitting there with the dog, looking happy. And there came a moment where Kenny came running over to us and said, it started. And I thought to myself, whether it comes in 10 minutes or in an hour and 10 minutes. What a miracle. The car did not move. Way down there, miles away. And Joni showed me on her phone where he was driving. And when that line stopped for a while, she said he must have stopped to buy a pizza. And I thought to myself, miracles exist, but you have to understand them, because we did get into the car and it did start. All because somebody miles away had a machine and did something to this machine, and we drove. I believe in miracles. If you go to a doctor's office and you see the charts of veins and muscles drawn out, and you look at them and you say, but when I hear which vein comes from where and goes where, what a miracle I am. What a miracle. And in a way, they have machines that make the heart start again. I'm going to stop hating machines, because the only reason I hate them is I don't understand them. I'm not going to bother understanding them, because it's too late at 92 and a half to begin to understand why way down there in White Plains somebody gets a phone call which attaches to my daughter, which then says now it's time to take Willie to walk so he doesn't have to pee later. There are rhythms and there are miracles. Now, I want to talk about the painting. Kenny, can you show it? I have it on the computer.
Yes.
This was an amazing painting to do. Again, the Brooklyn Bridge. How many people have crossed it with shoes or wheels or tires or maybe even barefoot? But understand the miracles of employment that bridge gave. And I say employment because everybody in it created a part of it. How did I get this commission? This lovely man was watching me working in the street doing a painting of the stock exchange. And he came over and he said, could you do a painting of my home? I work at the stock exchange, but I work right next to the Brooklyn Bridge. When he said Brooklyn Bridge, I couldn't believe that people lived near the bridge. I knew there was water underneath. I don't really remember what was on both sides. But let me tell you about that street. I loved it. It was an old area which was going to be torn down, and buildings were going to be put there. Knowing the stock exchange area, they would probably be quite expensive. But the old buildings felt like a small town in the middle of this huge place. And the people were so friendly. People acted as if they were from the small town, not like the people who commissioned me, because they worked in this huge pulsing world of the stock exchange. But I want to read to you what the lady the wife, I try not to give names, because when people own paintings, I keep the names quiet. But there was a place called the Gallery at the Bridge, which also gave an exhibit of my work. And she was the one who wrote this, and I found it so wonderful, what she said, that I'm going to read it, because it is what I knew and felt, but could not have expressed so well. Through the eyes of Hedy Page Pagamansky, all children draw. Some keep going, some don't. I didn't stop. It's the answer I always gave to people when they said, how did you become an artist? And all children draw. Don't stop them. Don't say, Sydney does a better tree than you do. Don't say, look, there are more branches. Let them draw. Let them draw whatever they feel like drawing, even if it looks like a celery. Right? But let them discover what they feel, not what they see, because they haven't learned how to see yet. How do we know that a branch comes out of a tree unless you touch it and see how it goes? They're too short to touch a tree. So anyway, when people said, how did you become an artist? I just said, I didn't stop. And I had wonderful parents who never criticized. I got out of doing a lot of housework. The child is drawing, let her draw. When I was 8, my family had to flee Vienna, leaving everything behind. After a great loss comes a period of time when you try to hang on to things. But it's wonderful when you go to see things for what they are, not how much you need them. Remember that? Not how much you need them. So refugees have a sense of freedom, a sense of knowing they can handle tomorrow because they've handled yesterday. Be aware there will be many refugees around us now. There's a terrible war going on. We don't know how many nations will become involved. Perhaps it'll become a World War III. Perhaps there will be diplomacy where somebody will say, is it worth it? But when you are attacked, you can't sit by and say it'll go away, because it means you'll die. You know, I'll never forget when somebody said once about the people who are fleeing into America. How could they do such a thing? They're leaving everything behind. How could they subject their children to this long walk? How could they sit there and wait to be killed? Begin to see that's what art is supposed to be. Not what it looks like, but to tell other people what you know. Picasso did a painting called the Guernica. Someday I'm going to just show this on a Facebook program because of the questions that he had us answer. I've never understood war that way, except when he asks questions about the town he lived in when the bombs came from the sky. And cows as well as people were killed.
Should I show the painting?
Pardon?
Should I show it now, the Guernica?
No, I don't have Guernica in it.
That's right. I can find it here.
Could you? Oh, Kenny.
You keep going. I'll try to look for it.
Kenny's going to try. This is an incredible thing. While he's looking, let me read what else she said that I could not have said better. I will forever No, the lesson is learning to know that you pass through, that nothing belongs to you. It's an attitude. You value life for each moment. I will forever see with the eyes of a refugee. What is here today will not be here tomorrow. I am so aware that if the moment is not caught, then no one will know that it existed. My son was talking to me about what I've been doing, and he said, without knowing it, when you began, you were doing a history. When we went back to the Lower East Side, you realized that all the buildings were gone. What you had done was giving us history. And each of us carries a private history, and all of us are forgetting how to speak. There was a time when people wrote long letters to each other. There was a time when there were many newspapers and magazines. They're disappearing. People text. They say, I'm here, where are you? And language is lost. Maybe we're afraid to speak, but we're losing communication. I don't have to tell you, I don't like texting. Okay? Let me go further.
Should I show the painting?
Yes, I'd love it. And one day we'll just do the Guernica with the questions. How did you find it?
Just online.
Picasso used to be able to draw things realistically. He became famous for that. But when he wanted to show pain, anything realistic didn't work for him. So he twisted people, and he showed pain. All of you who are artists, it's only because you call yourself that. But art is in everything. It's in my friend who cooks for people. It's in a bricklayer who fixes a broken brick. It's in a child learning to walk. We all create. Let me go further. I want to talk to you about the family that commissioned me to do this painting. They were the kindest people I've ever met. Maybe it's because they lived in that street, not just working at the stock exchange. And there were nice people at the stock exchange too, but there was speed. As a matter of fact, I was reading an article today in one of the New York Times magazines about why people no longer work. And I thought to myself, it's not that they don't work. They're tired of the long hours. They're tired of not having time. Because suddenly they're creating their own time. They're just not going to work. It's something to think about. Let's watch the involvement, which makes me say something else. The reason I love my work is because when I didn't love my work, I earned money by painting little roses and carnations on plastic cups for the bathroom for when you brush your teeth, and hampers for the bathroom. What did we do? We took a brush and on this color, on this side, we put it into white. On this side, we put it into red. And then we went like this, swoosh. And I just remembered there were a few of us sitting next to each other doing what was called piecework. And we figured out it cost 14 cents to go to the bathroom. Well, in those days, Eric and I paid $30 a month rent in a 5th floor walk-up. So you tried not to go to the bathroom. And money does not have that meaning anymore. Now they have bitcoins and this coin and that coin and that coin and tokens and the ever-loving credit card. So the world changes. Let's change with it. Let's get a little smarter. Okay. I would like to bring up, before anything, about Kenny saying that I should speak to everyone to become a historian of their time. Because without knowing it, let me just see.
You have lots of time. 8 minutes.
Are there any comments?
Yes, should I read?
Yes, I love comments.
Sure. Marilu Bilgray de Rodriguez is here watching.
Hi.
Eileen said you are alive and living. That was when we first went on. Janine Schultz is watching.
Hi, Janine.
Marilu says yes, and Eileen says yes, we hear you, and so does Janine, and so does Tammy. They are listening from their living room, and Carol is watching. And Marilu said St. Mary's Academy because she's in Panama, so
Yes.
that struck a chord with her, a history chord. And Eileen said you look great in the butterfly shirt, and Marilu said you look fine with any color. Use any one. You look great. And Joe Tripp says hello, everyone. And Laura Silver says, Hedy, I love you. And Julie is watching, and Hernan and Fran, Hernan's parents, are watching.
I'm so glad.
And Julie says, hello, my loves. And Marilu says, I still have Aunt Paula's letters and the magazines she sent me. And Julie Williams says, wow, that Picasso is very powerful in light of the tragedy in Ukraine. Pain indeed, so evocative and agonizing. And JT says, big hugs from California.
Wonderful. Okay. I love you all. Now let me tell you what brought Kenny to say that about history. Years and years and years ago, you see, I began painting in 1960-something, I think it was. Painting, I mean, New York. Okay? So, what I'm speaking about now, the things that happened, about 40 years ago, I did Francis Tavern. And I did Francis Tavern for people who had asked me to do a painting, and I gave them a list of places I would love to paint. And one of them was Francis Tavern. And I love doing it. But I got to know the owners of Francis Tavern. And they became wonderful friends. And the food there was so good. Which food always means a lot to me. And I never ate there because it was very expensive. When you sit on the street and paint, you go to the nearest coffee shop, and the container of coffee is in cardboard, and you have a Danish maybe, but that's it. But then the Norden family asked me to do the commission of it. That was years later. And I ate so well. They insisted that I eat there. I did. There was a tremendous, I hate to talk about food, but believe me, I come from a family that loves food. My father ran away from home because he wanted to eat like the Viennese did, and he ran away to Vienna. And he did eat that way. But this is such a weird thing. Years later, when we did the website, I needed more information. And I thought I'll go down and ask them. But there was no Francis Tavern anymore on Pearl Street. And I called, and there was none. It seems to have disappeared. And it broke my heart. And I told my son, and he said, no, it exists. And I got a call from a lady who said, I am the owner of Francis Tavern and India House. And I said, but they're not there anymore. And she says, I have them in front of, I own them. And when I told Kenny that, he said, is she talking about the painting or the places? And I said, I'm talking about the restaurants. He said, check. So I called her again and I said, are you talking about the restaurants? She says, no, the paintings. I own them. I have them. So I looked up in my papers, and the people who originally commissioned me to do the first Francis Tavern also commissioned me to do India House. But I think always in terms of the place. I forget about the paintings because they're done, they're finished. But I don't forget the people. And to answer the question to Kenny, it's the people I do. The buildings are fascinating because of the people. The Nordens and I'm not going to say anymore because she's going to be visiting me, and that's the one who owns the tavern and India House. And I know the family so well, but I never associated with them. To me, it was the waiters and the waitresses and the cook and the food. I would like to ask all of you, oh, by the way, to connect more things, which are so exciting. My son went to school in New Paltz, and he met Paula and Eileen, and not only did they become close friends, but they became like extended family to us. We saw their son Silas when he was born. My mother held him in her arms and believed in miracles. And then a young man from Sweden came with his girlfriend, who then became his wife, and took a photo of me when I was painting the plaza. And it got onto the internet, and a close friend of Eileen and Paula, Ed Whitman, saw it, and he identified me as I'm the one. And he has been sending me pictures for so long of the Lower East Side, because what I feel about the people of my history, he feels of the same places. And so he's been sending me photographs of the Lower East Side. If Kenny would not have gone to New Paltz, I would never have met Ed. And it's time to go, but I want to say, whatever wires you touch, you don't know what they lead to. Touch them all. Don't be afraid of the world. Write about it, step into it, and create your art of history. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Should I read your comments?
I'd love it.
Okay, so from where we were, Julie Williams said, I remember going to your wonderful exhibit at Franz's Tavern years ago.
Yes.
And Ed Weidman said, love you, Hedy. And Julie said, love you. And Eileen said, we love your connection to Ed. Meant to be.
Yeah. Goodbye. I love you.